We knew how to push each other. We knew how to hurt each other.
We were so different and couldn't agree on almost anything.
Someone had to be louder, someone had to be bigger, someone had to be right.
It would just be fire and flame and then, going off to find some joy somewhere, but never really resolving the root.
Hello, you beautiful, multi-dimensional beings who are resonant with this channel. I am here on a special assignment to actually film an episode with my blood sister. And I guess that's how she wants to introduce herself. We don't need names.
Araceli.
Araceli.
She who needs no introductions.
Apparently, her outfit does the trick.
It does enough, yes.
What has prompted us to want to film this particular video, the sister wound, is just
Dun, dun, dun.
our long-standing history as kind of like a combination of allies and adversary all wrapped into one. I don't know if that's resonant with you, but
Deeply.
but that's really what we want to get into and kind of like elaborate on, because not everybody grows up having the rosy filter on their family relationships, their sibling relationships, and in this case, the sister relationship. Because we don't have any other siblings. It's literally you and I doing this together.
Nowhere to run to when this was not working.
No,
Here we were.
I mean, and we've talked a lot about how we are mirrors for each other. We both understand that we've chosen this. We've chosen to have the person on the other side be someone that is always going to be showing you things, uncomfortable things sometimes, beautiful things sometimes, but just very much serving as a mirror.
From a new perspective, very oftentimes. And this was a new realization. This is not something that we knew from very young. From very young, it was pure adversary and then also playmate and just
when we were bored.
Forth. Yeah.
Will you play with me?
Not even bored. I feel like sometimes we would just forget that we were angry and then we'd be in a good mood and play together. But it took many years, all the emotions to finally get to a point and a lot of maturity. We've heard from adults our whole lives that, oh, you guys will just get along. When you get older, all of this, it'll even out when you get older, and magically, and it does happen that way to some extent, and for a lot of people, just the distance alone and having other things to focus on is enough to bring peace. Living together can be really hard, challenging with whoever you're living with. But yeah, the mirror, the idea of viewing each other as mirrors and having an appreciation for that relationship has come fairly recently, in the past few years.
And has taken a lot of conscious work, both separately and together. Meeting each other where we are each time we've gone in separate directions, living our own independent lives, starting our own independent healing journeys, and then deciding to come and meet again and see, okay, where are we at now, and like how's this gonna continue to evolve? What we actually want to do is go back a little bit, just to give you an idea. We've said, okay, we were adversaries as children, and that's not an exaggeration. I mean, some people may think, oh, a little fight here and there, but
every day.
If we're being honest, and we are being honest by sitting down and pressing record, it was a day in, day out situation. We were almost opposites on everything, on every belief, almost
every way we wanted our sandwiches to be eaten, and the way we did things. That was actually part of what brought me the first sense of peace, is growing up, we were so different and couldn't agree on almost anything. And that was such a frustrating thing. There was just so much strife from that. And when I got much older, thank you, astrology, learning that she was a Cancer and I was a Capricorn, and that by nature those two signs are opposites. They lie opposite on the
chart.
In the sky, and they have their own blueprints, their own unique gifts to offer by the way that they do things. And so in reading that and learning about that, I started to see that I don't have to try to make her do things the way I do them, that there's not even just a one way to do anything, that it's, in fact, I can begin to open and see what it is I can learn from her, and then look back on all the years that I was gifted a different way of doing things if I just looked at it that way, instead of looked at it like the world is not right if people aren't doing things the way I do them.
I think by nature, when we're developing, we want to have the world look the way we want it to look, and we want people to be the way we want them to be.
But it's a matter of safety, perceived safety.
Yeah, and I think also just our society has thrived off of a control structure. And so even in our relationship, it always felt like somebody had to be in control. Somebody had to be the boss of even like an argument, the boss of, how we were going to play, the boss of and so
my energy.
That's like a program. That's a program that when we're younger, we don't have a name to put to it. We just know that that's how we operated naturally. Versus other people who can flow together and who can collaborate in just a different way, in operating under this control structure, because it's what we knew, because it's what we saw. There had to be an authority figure in the way we related to each other. Someone had to be louder, someone had to be bigger, someone had to be right.
That's right.
That's the key word in our family. It's like, who's right? I'm right in my argument. I'm right in my opinion, choice, decision. And it took a long time of unpacking that and of deprogramming ourselves, again, on our separate journeys, of like, wow, there are infinite perspectives on any one thing. And so is there only one person that's right? One way to look at a situation. And that brought me peace, is really being like, okay, she is bossy. She is louder than me. She is somehow smaller in height, but like she can be bigger than me. And so I had to be bigger in my own way.
You brought it.
Yeah, or meaner maybe in some aspects with my words, with we knew how to push each other. We knew how to hurt each other.
In my own explorations, it felt like in self-defense in a lot of ways, because I don't believe your nature was mean to begin with, but what do you do when you're like backed into a corner and you're kind of being forced to do things that you don't want to do, or you don't feel appreciated, and you have a big energy around you? Then you're going to try to like pop that energy, and vice versa, because I had my own stories about it the same way too. I thought that my big energy was my protection against her meanness, and who knows, where it even started. I was older, it probably started with me.
What I've learned recently is that our relationship goes back many lifetimes. Many, many, many lifetimes that we've actually chosen to be sisters. That blew my mind, because I knew we've been family before. I've just intuitively known that. But I had a beautiful reading where I was curious about you and our relationship, and I asked about you, and they were like, oh, all the lives you've been sisters. And I was like, oh my God, no wonder I'm so exhausted from this life as your sister, because again, here we are choosing each other lifetime after lifetime to navigate this life, to navigate our trajectory of like becoming the people that we want to be, becoming the women we want to be.
To have had the realization of like, oh, this relationship that has caused and been the source of so much, pain, emotional roller coasters, like, and trauma, and to sit and go, oh, I've chosen this. You're saying I've chosen this for many lifetimes, and I've done this rodeo for many lifetimes. I would imagine had its own emotions. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, the way I look at it is not like every lifetime that we've been sisters has been traumatic and painful. There's like an essence from each life, maybe, that maybe, if it wasn't resolved in other lifetimes, could have amounted to be resolved in this life. This was going to be a big one. This was going to be a lot of work and a lot of conscious decisions. Even the decision of like separating a lot and being like, I can't talk to you for a while. I can't see you for a good chunk of time on both sides.
I don't want you to be my sister anymore.
This is back in the day, but she would do a Facebook post and delete me as her friend. And then my friends would be like, oh, Araceli wrote a big post about how you guys aren't sisters anymore. And I was like, what do I say to that? I can't read it, right? But it's true. Like, this is our reality. This is something that we've moved through many, many phases and cycles of our relationship. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about specifically, what is it about the sister wound? If it's something that you don't work on to heal, how can that affect your future relationships with other women, relationships with friends? Are there certain, again, like tendencies that maybe you've had in friendships that was born out of our thing?
Okay, I'll go there. So I just kind of want to start off by saying, like, everyone has free choice, and the way that we design our lives is perfect no matter what. There's no even hierarchy in that. We came to talk about the sister wound because the divine feminine is a big energy that is rising in consciousness right now, and it's all very connected. It's connected not only from mother to daughter, which is something that gets spoken of more often, I feel like,
mother
than sister.
Wound, father wound,
father wound, and healing those relationships. And very rarely do I ever hear about sisters, and brothers as well. But it's going off on our journeys. It's having the space and to be able to sit with ourselves and feel and separate what's us and what's not us, and basically coming to places step by step that uncovered that there was a lot more pain than even I was willing to admit. My anger spoke more loudly for me than my own pain, and my own sadness especially. So very often I would get mad and say, like, we're not sisters, like, kind of thing. But I wouldn't acknowledge, even within myself, there was a lot of pain there. And so that would never get addressed. It would just be fire and flame, and then, going off to find some joy somewhere, but never really resolving the root of what's at play. What's at play within myself, what's at play within my sister. And actually a big thing for me that would come up was, it's just not possible. When I live in the wounding, when I live in the limitations of that, all I saw from her was a very limited perspective of who she was, and I thought anything beyond this is not possible. It's not possible to talk to her, it's not possible to reason with her, it's not possible to be understood by her. And in getting to the root of things, allowing myself to feel what I was not comfortable feeling and supporting myself, I could start to feel her in times and feel her humanity and feel my humanity, and then realize, like, oh my goodness, this has been playing out in other relationships as well. Sister wounds, sister relationships, that dynamic is very much interwoven with other friendships, other sisterhoods, other Yeah. Lesbian lovers. I don't
How our relationship steered me to certain friendships and sisters that I sought out. I literally called other women's sister very early on because it was almost like I was reaching for another sister. I was like, because even the
Mine's
one,
broken.
even the one I got in this life doesn't want me. So I need to have sisterhood and people I can count on and people that love me, maybe unconditionally or at least a lot, and just navigate life with them and navigate the experience of getting older or transitioning in like important moments in my life, whether it's like puberty, whether, because again, we were not close during these times. So it was like I was always seeking somebody that was going to, in a sense, initiate me in certain parts of life like my sister didn't or couldn't. And
I was scared of you.
I just remember there were so many things that we never talked about. And feeling like, again, like I got one sister in this life and we can't have that conversation. Like we can't have a conversation about sex.
Every time I would do something that was like a step ahead of her, like if I would put on makeup or do my bangs, she would make fun of me. So it's hard to have conversations with someone who's just going to make fun of you for doing something that they're not doing yet.
There was just, I think, a lot that we took on without even knowing it. So the fact that, I don't know if you can tell, like we're very close in age. We're a year and a half apart. That from the start is like not talked about that much, because when you're that close in age, it's almost like, number one, you've shared this with me before. You were a baby when I came along and you felt resentment. These are her words, not mine, but like you felt resentment towards me from the moment I was born or even still in the womb, you know? And so when we started diving into that, just one aspect of our relationship that was out of my hands, because I came when I came, when my soul was like, you're coming through, I came through.
Hell or high water.
Yeah, and again, and that's something that I can't experience because I wasn't a child here with parents who then had someone encroach with their presence as a baby on their life. So do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah. So, trying to remember when I could make that connection, because my earliest memories of us as children was that I was the one who was bullied growing up. That's how I saw it. I was like, I just have the meanest sister. And I don't know, like I need a different one. This, she just, yeah, there's there, and I thought that I was the one who was always like, yeah. I didn't have friends growing up. She had like a whole gang of friends and was very popular, and I'm always pointing out that I was not popular and all the things. And she would always remind me when we were little and we'd have videos of us playing as toddlers that like, look, she's doing something to me. Look, this is when you would like splash water on me and drown me and do things, and I'd be like, what are you even talking about? And I wouldn't, it didn't really land because I was so vigilant still back then. I didn't know how to allow in other perspectives, you know, and see a more complete picture and not see anything as a threat. It was this big right and wrong thing. If I admitted or, you know, saw her, then that meant I was doing something wrong. Can't have that. So
Deny.
not happening. You're overreacting.
It's on camera, but it didn't happen.
Everybody look over here. It wasn't until I was really like older, far removed from all these things, and I like started putting two and two together. One of the earliest things was I realized like I don't celebrate my sister. Like I started drawing like parallels to like how I would treat friends and say anything they were doing was great. And I couldn't bring myself to say that to anything that she would do. In fact, I was always just criticizing her. And I was like, where is that coming from? And I think that's what maybe led me to start realizing, like, why I can't celebrate or be happy for you. Getting right down to this resentment, this core resentment that was beyond what my memory and my conscious memory could even, like, pull up. One of my earliest memories, I think my first memory as, like, a toddler, was my sister being brought home and being very, or not, maybe not brought home, but just very young in a rocking chair in my mom's arms, and a visceral, emotional feeling in my body of, like, hate. Just like, yeah, just like, who is this? Why is she taking my mom? And when is she leaving? Like, what the heck?
I'll pack her bag. We could drop her off somewhere when she's ready to go.
This is not gonna work. Yeah. And starting to draw the connections. If I felt that way, then it would make sense why I would do things like we saw in our childhood videos. And it would make sense why I would convince her that, like, cutting the hair off her Barbies was a really great idea. And she didn't seem to like that, but, you know, it was just like these connections started coming together. And I started realizing, oh, if someone treated me like that, I would be mean to them too. I would want them to get away from me. I'd want them to stop. So then the whole story that I had, the whole paradigm that I had of how mean she was, suddenly had an explanation. And I had to call her and apologize.
We went to go have Thai food.
Really? Because I thought we were on the phone. We did it in person?
You told me the thing about remembering me as a baby and you being resentful. You told me that when we were eating Thai food one night. And, like, I remember we were outside of the restaurant eating and, like, crying and going into all of that, and it was heavy. I mean, and it was big of you to also, like, share that with me so that I had some frame of reference of, like, how complex, like, how many layers there are to our life together in all of its different stages. But I'm very good at visualizing, so I remember visualizing you standing outside of my crib, and they would say that she would pinch me in the crib. But again, it's like, for a child to do that, there must have been something very traumatic. It must have been something very marking for them. Because a baby or a young child they don't even have the capacity to, like, harm because they want to harm, not at that age. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It was just like you said, out of anger, out of fear that I was taking mom, you know, things like that.
Or pain.
Yeah,
feeling like forgotten or not as important because the new baby needs more attention, and just all of that, and not being able to understand, like, what is happening, like, what's this change and everything. And all of these things, just basically picking them up one by one, these memories and these different flavors of emotions and circumstances, and just considering them, just being open to whatever it is they might have to impart. Just start discovering how much trauma lives in the body, basically, from all of these things, and it's stored in our bodies, stored in our memories.